Hello to all the people watching this video. This time it's all about the many flaws of the NT Mini Noir, the company behind it, the customer service, and why I don't like the system, although I really enjoyed its siblings, the Super NT and the Mega SG. Let's jump right into it. To start, I want to explain a bit about clone systems from the company Analogue and their lead software engineer Kevin Horton, also known as Kevtris. Well-known products are the mentioned 16-bit FPGA systems Super NT and Mega SG, the NES clones Analogue NT and NT Mini, the Analogue Pocket, which represents the most retro handhelds like Game Boy and Game Gear, and the announced but not yet released Duo, a TurboGrafx 16 PC Engine FPGA clone. But what the heck means FPGA? Short answer is Field Programmable Gate Array. Basically, it is a programmable chip who is able to mimic the exact behavior of old chipsets, if they are reverse engineered and their functionality is known. Like the ones in most retro gaming systems, FPGA promises to replicate old consoles, handhelds and home computers as exactly as the originals work, but with modern technologies and features like HDMI out, crystal clear audio, superb picture quality and other enhancements. The NT Mini Noir is such a FPGA based clone system and should work like an old NES, just better. It is the third iteration of their NT systems and offers modern quality of life improvements. But let's take a look what Analogue has to say about their product on the official Analogue homepage. The NT Mini version 2 features a new and perfected NES cartridge slot, updated UI, branding, packaging, and includes a new 8-bit 2.4 GHz controller for NES in the box. Otherwise, it's the same NT Mini you know and love. Available one last time, better than ever. This is what they advertise for their NT Mini Noir. And for the, I quote, same NT Mini you know and love, they claim, the NT Mini is not a plug-and-play toy. It is the definitive way to explore an entire era of Nintendo history. It is compatible with every NES, Famicom and Famicom Disk System game, and the accessories too. And this is true, in its own unique way. I mean, I have no game in my collection that is not playing at all with this system. But it is not like you hoped for. Analogue is also claiming, unlike the knockoff and emulation systems that riddle the market today, you will be experiencing the NES free of any compromises. And oh boy, this is an absolute lie. Look, this is a FPGA system supposed to mimic the functions of the NES to 100% accuracy, right? It is built for usage with original cartridges. That's why they built 2 cartridge slots into the system, right? It should work like my old NES Famicom console, with all the benefits of new technologies like a 1080p scaled image, good sound quality and so on, right? Well, wrong. We'll come to it in a second. But for now, everybody should know that the NT Mini Noir is a very expensive item. Analogue sold it for $499 US. That is a lot of money. You should put this into perspective. And I paid even more because I am living in Germany. And with tax and shipping, I paid more than 600 euro for this thing, in the expectation for the usual Analogue quality. Eventually, I was super happy with the Super NT and Mega SG, but man, was I wrong. At least the build quality of the NT Mini Noir is awesome. It feels like a premium product. But this is useless in the end with faulty software. But what exactly is wrong with the system, and why is my trusty old RGB modded AV Famicom way superior to the Mini Noir, you ask? Let's start from the beginning. The firmware the console shipped with was flawed. There were sound issues and some compatibility problems with certain games like the PAL version of Castlevania 3. No problem so far, because there will be an update with fixes. Most products arrive at the market with bugs and issues nowadays. Firmware 1.1 released on 20th December 2020 and fixed a lot of problems like Famicom disk system sound, reversed audio analog plugs and a lot of other minor problems. Even Castlevania got fixed, but now for some reason one of my all-time favorites was complete broken. Batman Return of the Joker, one of Sunsoft's finest games for the NES, especially in the technical department, could not be loaded from the original card in a playable status. It also refused to load correct from my EverDrive N8. Firmware 1.1 was already out the time my NT Mini Noir arrived, so I updated very soon to it, and boy, I was surprised to experience a lot of issues with my EverDrive 2. It gave me a lot of error code, sometimes did load with a black or green screen only, glitched games, especially when I used the save states on my EverDrive, and so on and so forth. This was also the time I started noticing some issues with graphical elements shaking around like this elevator or the boss introduction in Mega Man 5. Also one of my favorites and a game I'd speedrunned for a while, but I could fix it with shutting off the 16 sprites per scanline feature. Do you remember the marketing for the NT Mini Noir? Works like a real NES but better. Well, my little AV Famicom from the early 90s, which is the Japanese version of the NES, does not have any of these issues. But okay, I get it. Sometimes if you fix some things, you break others, and literally no one could test the thousands of NES games available on the system. This issue will be resolved like they did with the Super NT or Mega SG, right? On February 22th, 2021 they released a new firmware. 1.2 was out there and I was excited. This is the third NES FPGA system they built, and of course they fixed the remaining bugs with their long-lasting NES experience. And now I'll get the quality experience with the system as they promised. It has to, right? To be honest, firmware 1.2 is an absolute shit show. They had broken so many things with it, I could not believe it. The EverDrive N8 is now complete broken. You can't play games with it at all. I talked about the jittery graphics in Mega Man 5, and guess what? The problem is back. But now it is even worse because you can't fix it. It is there no matter what you do. And with a bit research I found out there are more games with this bug. Okay, this is all rambling about old firmware released in the beginning of 2021. And you are right, but here comes the biggest issue of all. It was also the last firmware update Analogue released. Yes, it is now good 15 months since this company cared about the customer and tried to release some fixes, even if firmware 1.2 is so broken. So now you see the big picture. We have a company claiming to provide the best NES experience money can buy. FPGA NES core tested and worked out for thousands of hours from FPGA software coding legend Kevin Horton, if I remember correctly. This fucking thing is expensive as hell and cannot keep up with my AV Famicom at all. My old trusty console plays every NES game I put into it. My everdrive is working like it should. All my cartridges are working fine. No bugs or issues at all. This is something the Analogue NT Mini Noir cannot do. It is a highly flawed product for a lot of money, praised from all the YouTube channels I like so much. And nobody is talking about all the bugs and issues a $500 FPGA clone system should not have, especially after that time in the market. Shame on you, retrousb, Digital Foundry, GameSec and My Life in Gaming. You all talked about the system, introduced and tested it, and praised Analogue for their quality products. But at this stage, the NT Mini Noir is nothing more than an overpriced luxury system. And it can't compete at all with old hardware from the 90s in terms of accuracy and compatibility. And the worst of all is, Analogue does simply not care about their product. I and many others reached out to them because of all the problems, and we all get the same generic answer. That they are aware of the issues and will fix them in the next coming update. Sadly, there was never a fixed firmware 1.3, and now after all this time, I doubt there ever will be. Dear Analogue, there was a time everyone loved your products because you cared. You cared about the customer, about your systems and your reputation. Nowadays, it seems the only thing you care about is the money you can get. The NT Mini Noir is a good example, and the Analogue Pocket probably will be the next flawed systems you don't give a shit about. Because firmware rollout has also stopped for now for the Pocket. So all the customers are stuck with a system that has a lot of issues and promised but not fulfilled features. My name is Marcel. I thank you for watching my complaints about the behaving of the company Analogue and how they deal with their products and customers. Don't believe the marketing hype of companies and call them out for their failures, even if you are a fanboy. Have a good day.